Hi there.
So, gender neutral clothing. Where did you get the idea to start a shop selling that kind of clothing specifically?
Well, here's the story. I was thinking about how cool it would be if I could go online and find a vintage men's tuxedo that fit me. The only problem is, if you're looking for vintage clothing, it's tough to find something that fits at any rate. And then if you add in the fact that it's not really cut for what you might think is your body type, you're going to have a whole other set of problems. I sort of thought to myself, wouldn't it be awesome if there was an online store that sold vintage clothing that took the same piece and photographed it on people of different genders and different body types, so you could get an idea of how it would fit on you, regardless of whatever whatever you were supposed to be purchasing, quote unquote, because you were a man or a woman. So I sort of realized there was no one else doing it and decided I would just start it myself.
Sourcing the stuff for your site must be a little difficult. What do you look for?
Basically, I try to think about pieces that'll work on lots of different bodies, lots of different people. I sort of, hold it up and think, could I see, a male person wearing this, female person wearing this? Could it fit into lots of people's wardrobes? And sometimes that's that sort of dapper kind of menswear look with button downs and bow ties and suit jackets. Sometimes it's very sportswear like sweatshirts and so that's sort of like Americana look of like fisherman sweaters and Levi's. And sometimes it's really sort of edgy like leather jackets and sort of silk shirts and tunics and that kind of slightly darker look. And then sometimes it's just something glittery or something with a cat face on it or something I think is hilarious that I just want someone to have it.
Yeah, whimsy is good for everybody of every gender.
Oh, yeah.
I mentioned in the intro that this whole genderless, gender-neutral, unisex clothing moment is so hot right now, and there have been some avant-garde collections, labels like Montreal designer Rad Hurani or the Japanese line Comme des Garçons. What do you think is behind this insurgence right now?
I can't say for sure. I feel like it is a trend right now, obviously, but it's also been a trend that's recurred in different ways for decades and decades. I mean, the 70s had David Bowie doing a glam sort of thing. The 80s had hair metal guys who were wearing, probably about as much makeup and hairspray and tighter pants as their girlfriends were.
I always wanted to be as pretty as the guys in Poison.
Of course. Who wouldn't? Clearly. And, the 90s were sort of like everyone was wearing flannels. Everyone was wearing baggy everything. It's sort of cycled in and out, and it manifests in different ways over the years. But I think right now, what's really interesting is that it mirrors sort of things that are happening in the rest of the world at large in terms of gay rights and queer rights and also feminism. I feel like it's feeding into a lot of channels of thought right now where people are sort of willing to reconsider what gender roles are and what they should be and how closely we really need to follow them in society and how much it even oppresses people who feel like they don't fit in one way or the other.
I've noticed that when we talk about gender-neutral clothing, for the most part, it seems to be women wearing dude-esque type clothing. I don't see a lot in popular culture going the other way.
I hate that. I hate that the view of quote-unquote androgyny is seen as female-bodied people wearing masculine clothing. It's so limiting, and it's kind of unfair to people on the more masculine side of things who present more femininely. I think it's it's sort of yet another way that I think society sees maleness as kind of a default thing, where it's like if you are a female person borrowing from the men's side of things, people are like, of course. But if you're a male person who wants to wear women's jeans or makeup, people are kind of looking at you sideways, and that's not fair.
That's true. And we did see Kanye try to do a little something with the skirt a few years ago. Why do you think that didn't take off?
I don't know. I think people are still threatened by men in skirts, but it's not really fair, I mean, I think it was Eddie Izzard, the comedian, who used to wear skirts all the time. I think he still does. And people would be like, Eddie, why are you wearing women's clothes? And he's like, they're not women's clothes. They're mine, and I'm a man, so they're my clothes.
Good for him.
Yeah, no kidding.
So do you think it in any way devalues, I think of my wife and I, we're not stereotypical femme butch, but she wears clothing that would be seen as more gender neutral. I wear very feminine clothing. I wear dresses a lot. Do you think the notion of gender neutral clothing somehow devalues the more feminine style of dress?
Not at all. I mean, even if you look at, I mean, the point too is that the more feminine style can be accessible to men as well, right? Everyone can, I think the whole point of my store is that we're sort of making the point that everyone can wear everything. Everyone can have everything if they so desire to do it. And if you're a woman and you love wearing skirts, I mean, I like wearing skirts. You know, more power to them. They're cute. You know,
And
skirts are cute.
do you think that, what do you think the reason is that men are resistant to taking those more steps towards what is considered more feminine style of dress?
I just feel like it's seen as a threat to sort of power and privilege in a way. I think that things are coded as female or somehow seen as inferior by a lot of people, but it really doesn't have to be that way. I think, yeah, I think that it's sort of, it's sort of. I'm not explaining myself very well.
No, I think we get the meaning. When you think broader, outside of fashion, what do you think we gain as a society culturally when we break down those gender barriers?
I think it means power for everyone. I think it means people gaining greater validation. I think it means people gaining more confidence in themselves. Yeah, I think that there's really no harm in creating more mutability between the two different, you know, the sides of masculine and feminine, or even creating spaces for people that don't fit into either the male or female categories at all. I just think it's going to make happier people overall, and you know, a society that's less sort of policed one way or the other. You know, when we stop sort of expecting people to fit into either masculine or feminine, I think it's just going to make everyone happier.
Yeah, I hate being pushed into a box on anything, gender, sexuality, or anything else. What, in your experience, in the time that you've had the shop open, what's your customer base? Men, women, straight, gay, queer, both, all, what?
I think that a lot of queer folks have come to the store and found the store because they are they're intrigued by the idea and they support the idea behind it. And I think the customer base seems to be mostly female, from what I can tell right now. But there have been some curveballs. I feel like, you know, I've put things up for sale. There was this really cool sort of anorak kind of jacket, this military-looking jacket that was oversized from the 90s. I thought for sure some like skinny jeaned, combat booted, edgy young person would buy it, and it went to some dude in his 60s.
Really?
Yeah, and he put it on, and I was like, yes, this is perfect. This is brilliant. Yeah, there have been a few curveballs, but I think it sort of illustrates just how wide-reaching the aim of the store really is, and how many people it can really appeal to. Because at the end of the day, it's really all just clothes. You know, that's sort of our mandate. We present just the measurements and kind of ballpark sizing for people. And our whole thing is, do you like the clothes? Will they fit on your person? Then go on ahead and buy it and wear it. And you do you.
And is there any space there for some plus size neutral gender?
Oh, totally. Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of at the whim of what I find, unfortunately, but I have as wide a size range as possible. Basically, if it's cool. If it's cool, I will buy it. There's definitely been some plus stuff in the past.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming in and chatting with us about that.
Oh, you're welcome.